So we have a quorum, so we can be after the meeting. I will go ahead and start by reading the land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute people on which we are meeting today. All right. First thing up, we have the last two meeting minutes to approve. And are there any questions? Do we have a motion to pass?
Can we approve both of them?
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes from the last 2 meetings.
Commissioner Tom moves that we approve last meeting's minutes, 2 minutes, or the 2 meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Miller seconds it. Meeting minutes are approved for the last 2 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Motion passed. Great. And then we'll dive right into the director's update.
Thank you. I want to welcome our 2 newest commissioners who, this is your first meetings, right? Or were you here last?
This is my second.
Commissioner. Okay, well, I'm glad that you're both here this time. It's great to have you. Hi, Councilmember Willis.
Hello.
So we have a lot of really great content to go through today, so I'm gonna kind of whip through this pretty quickly, if that's okay with everyone. The first thing I want to do is welcome Savannah Shayon, who is our new art coordinator for the airport. I'll ask you to just say a few words about yourself and your background, and then we won't go through everybody this time around, but if you don't mind doing that for the commission, that would be great.
So my name is Savannah. I moved here from Alabama and I have a background in fine art and a master's in art history. So public art is definitely like kind of a break from what I was planning, but so far it's been a very good change. So I'm really excited to focus on really big, interesting art in the airport and work with all of you on that as well.
Were you passionate about airports to begin with?
I like to fly. Does that count?
Yes.
Good job. So this has been a really exciting month. We also have been recruiting for several temporary positions that we're planning to get a lot of work frankly out of between now and the end of the fiscal year. We've had a backlog in our collections for quite some time, and our existing staff has put together a scope, and we have been successfully recruiting. And in fact, several staff have done interviews over the weeks, and we've identified a candidate for that. So we'll be doing museum collections and hopefully processing that backlog of artifacts between now and the end of the fiscal year. We're also kicking off a new project called Participatory Archiving. We will have a better term for that for the program, but essentially it's collections from the community. Typically, archival collections tend to represent people who are powerful and have, more control in our society. And so the idea of participatory archiving is to actually do collecting from the community. So we are hiring somebody just temporarily to help us get that program off the ground and help us sort of put all the pieces into place so that we can use that template and go out into the community to reach communities that we are currently, the populations that are currently reaching. We also have an intern that has started from Walla Walla. She actually just started today, and she will be working on oral histories all summer long. So that's really exciting. And then, as you probably all know, and I'll talk about on the next slide, we have 2 interns that just started this summer, one of whom is a student of Dr. Miller's, and they will be working on our new tour this summer. So there are 2 history tours and 2 public art tours that are going to be given a lot over the course of the summer, and we were very lucky that the mayor's office sponsored those internships this summer, and so it was started this week as well. So all good. And then the final person that we're hiring right now on a professional services consulting basis is somebody that helps us write some content for the history books. So been a busy hiring month. So I'm very pleased to say that the City Steps program started this week. The first tours were given on Saturday, last weekend, and then today our Wednesday noon tour. All 3 interns joined Maureen, the history programs manager, for today's noon tour, which was sold out. Full. It's free, so it was full though. So with that noon Wednesday tour and a Wednesday evening tour afterward, which is at 5:30, we're trying to reach into the business community here. And the people who come into Boise to work and then depart in things. And so, you know, fingers crossed, I'm gonna be doing, actually a bit of a tour, a publicity tour among organizations. And actually, Commissioner Walker and I bumped into each other at a very early Rotary meeting weeks ago, where she was presenting on her professional work and I was presenting on City Steps. And so really trying to do some outreach in the community around getting people engaged in our public art program and educating them on that, as well as on the history of our city, and trying to help people understand the history of our city. It's
And you want to do that by encouraging more participation in City Steps?
you bet.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're hoping that by encouraging lots and lots of people to go on these tours, that, you know, people will be interested and start asking questions and want to be engaged and involved. So, you may know that Preservation Idaho, which is a partner organization that we work with a lot, and some of you went to the event today in the River Street neighborhood. They also give tours and they actually charge for their tours. And so, you know, we were of course concerned about competing with them, and we are not interested in doing that and taking any business away from them. So once the tours get underway, we actually will be at the end of our tours giving away and promoting their tours and having handouts and stuff. And so we've been in close communication with them about the differences in content to make sure that we are competing and making sure that we're cross promoting. And as I mentioned, the participatory archiving, we have a 10th person hopefully starting in the next couple of weeks, and we're hoping to actually kick that first program off in November. So be on the lookout and get excited to hear more about that, because I think it's going to be a really exciting program. Just a little bit about some of the travel and professional development that the team has been doing. So the history programs manager, Maureen, and I attended the National Council on Public History Conference in Salt Lake City about a month ago. And then I actually presented a history essay and project that I've been working on, and that's actually getting published in August in a book on the history of the Boise River and some of the urban development that happened here. So I traveled to Denver for that conference, I think back in April. Jennifer Wybar attended the National Association of Government Communicators just a few weeks ago, and it was incredibly valuable. So we're looking forward to hearing what came out of that and what sort of new tricks she learned. And then the entire public art team actually traveled last week to Salt Lake City. We received a grant from the Idaho Commission on the Arts, and we traveled together for both team building, but also to meet all of their colleagues and peers down in Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County to learn about the programs that they began there and compare notes. It turns out that we are, I think Stephanie may mention something about this, but suffice to say that Salt Lake was a little envious of this fantastic art program. So about that. I think it was a really valuable trip for us. You all probably have heard me talk a little bit about the American for the Arts advocacy work that I do. And I just want to let you know that last Monday, I had a Zoom in call with Congressman Simpson's legislative director. His name is Riley Lamp, and I included both the executive director of the Idaho Commission on the Arts, as well as several members from Congressman Simpson's district to join me on a call advocating for funding for the National Endowment for the Arts, as well as the humanities, and then also talk to him about some arts education legislation that's currently before him in Congress, and ask for his co-sponsorship on that bill. It was a really great conversation. Congressman Simpson is incredibly supportive of the arts, and so it's a really it's a relationship I'm working to build with the help of the American Arts Organization. I did invite him to come to the James Castle House during the summer recess this summer, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that he may do it. So he and his wife are very interested in that. Yeah, of course.
Are you, Dr. Stevens or Director Stevens, are you aware that he's an artist himself?
Yes, I am. I was very fortunate to get to actually meet with him in person last summer when I was there. And he actually has some of his own watercolors up in his office. So we spent quite a bit of time in art. Yeah, he's quite talented, very talented. Who knew? I didn't until then. So, yeah. Yeah. So just to give you guys kind of an update on next year's budget, so the city is engaged right now it feels like we're constantly engaged in the budget. But we actually did put it to city council a couple of weeks ago for the annual budget workshop, the first annual budget workshop. And so part of our budget for our department is threefold. First is we have a pretty major request that is being sponsored by the mayor's office to consolidate the active records center with the city archives. So the facility that we currently store all of the city archival records in, I say all, and there's just like caveat to that, I'm happy to talk about with any of you individually. That facility will be consolidated with the records center pending council approval of the budget. So long-term, it's a great savings for the city because we will no longer have that lease fee, obviously, but it also will go a long ways toward helping the archives get up and running and be part and parcel with the active records that are managed. Because really, the archives and active records are all part of the same thing. It's just different parts of the life cycle of any individual record. And so we're really excited about that budget item, and it's a big deal. So along with that, we also are asking for one-time funding for right now, as you know, we even have one person working in the archives, which is kind of mind-blowing. So we're asking for some professional services dollars for somebody to just do the run of the business stuff while we're also planning this rather gigantic. And then, of course, we will have under the current budget for the staff that we have and work that we're already doing. And then finally, I just want to say thank you all for the time that you've given me in the last couple of months, talking about your sort of motivation for being on the commission, what you're hoping to get out of the volunteer opportunity and the service that we give to the city. Jillian and I are compiling that, and we will be following up with you after we spend some time with staff talking about some potential changes to the commission. So I just want to say thank you. And then, of course, we finish with needs. So I want to thank those of you who've shown up to a couple things this week. Trish and Melissa were there today at the Heyman House. Chris was at the potluck dinner last night. So we're very happy to see all of you there. Please spread the word on city steps. Again, we're giving a lot of tours, so we need a lot of people to sign up to make it worth our while. Also, please pick up a copy of the cultural program guide. That's always an exciting thing, and share that. And then consider attending Black Excellence Gala Creators Talk that's going to be at Heyman House on June 29th. Actually, Commissioner Walker will be presenting on a panel that day. I'm sure she'd be happy to tell you that. To the degree that she so thank you all very much. Any questions?
Will the July, August, and September cultural program?
I think it's gonna be a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Yeah, I'm in the middle of gathering all of the material up from the rest of staff and putting it together. I think the first.
Okay. So June was, I think, more than half of what was in the cultural guide, so I'm anticipating July.
Lots of stuff going on.
You guys should see this.
Yes.
I really love, I mean, I told Jennifer this, but I went to 2 events back to back, the West Public Library at Jump, and then I saw Mackenzie at Botanical Gardens, and just the fact that you show up with 2 completely different things for these 2 events that are similar in the mind of my children, but 2 very different activities, that is not easy to do. You know, I think Idaho Power has 1 kit, and we take it to each event, and it doesn't vary much, so the fact that you show up with something individual and creative for each organization, and people are there to engage the kids over a long period of time. Honestly, it's not just to pick up something and walk away. It's really engaging. I have read the Bob the Author books So.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
There's more Bob coming your way.
I feel like, I was like, you know what, he needs to learn how to be a good trail user.
Oh.
Oh, I like that, right?
I think there needs to be Bob stuff in for sale.
Yes.
So we're working on.
Yeah.
For the city steps, are you like reaching out to chambers? Are you reaching out to like corporations to ask, can you come in and talk to their like new hire orientation, things like that?
That's a good idea.
Cause my friend, they used to do like a really great orientation with their new hires. And I think that that would be a really good opportunity to visit with folks that are transitioning here, as well as letting them know, you know, the history and what's going on in the city, and when there's events and things like that that are happening. I think that would be a really good opportunity for you to just kind of get that word out for that event.
Yeah, I've been sort of doing it less corporation by corporation and trying to address the business community through chamber and through going Beach Rotary and Kiwanis and that sort of thing. But we are putting an insert in the chamber newsletter for printing 5,000 flyers to go out with their name. So. I know, so we're going big. Let's hope it works.
Have you reached out to the local influencer community? I think they're nano influencers. Nano influencers.
You mean like Marissa from Boise and stuff, or do you?
Yeah.
Yes, so,
Yes.
why don't you go ahead, you probably know more about Marissa than I do.
Yeah, I know like from Boise is someone that we reach out, she has like a way that you can submit community events. I know there's been press release, like it got featured in Boise Dev's morning newsletter. So I think there's some of that happening, but if you have other suggestions, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, maybe I'll just follow. I think invite the whole Boise Dev staff to come. Great. I can reach out to a couple of influencers to see if they would just like come on a tour and do a story about it, build content, not like a paid commercial. But yeah. Great idea.
Thank you.
Especially for the ones that are like attracting people to Boise. Like, yeah, when you're in Boise while you're here, that's always what I think of, right? Because I always invite like my in-laws or whoever's coming to town, like, hey, just go to this 1 hour day. Have you thought about, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say at the Rotary, somebody recommended putting it on tour advisor, so we've got a tour advisor. So.
Have you thought about downtown safety at all? I mean, have you had to reroute some of the tours based on sidewalk availability? Because it's terrible on my end of town. It's a little bit better over here, but
Just with that area.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, construction's done.
Right, it's like, do you really need that coffee a block away? No, I don't, it's not worth my life.
Yeah, they've sort of, I think they've been created with public art and history teams, thinking about accessibility right now. And then there's plans to expand.
And we are on the accessibility point, we are calling them guided tours as opposed to guided walking tours. So that we can make sure that people who are not necessarily walkers are able to join us, and because they are accessible. Share. So.
I might promote it, got me thinking, we just had 60 interns hit HP.
See, but now I might go, do you want 60 interns walking around downtown together right now?
No, but it would be nice if they like get hired and moved to Boise. Totally, you know, I mean, I'm always trying to promote Boise to them. Might be a great. They come to me and I say, you should do this and this and this.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure that you guys all have the flyer just got done today from community engagement, so we're just getting ready to like send it out, so we'll send it to you, so you have specific, and if all the things you just said would be fantastic, and get your help on pushing that word out. Okay, and we can of course share the slides with you, so we have access to all of the upcoming events. Some exciting things happening, so we'll see a lot of them. Okay, that and it. Well, I'll let.
All right.
Chair.
Stephanie and informational on.
Informational information.
Informational.
There you go.
Cool project. It looks amazing.
All right. So everyone, I am Stephanie, Public Art Program Manager, and I'm going to give you a presentation today on 521 West Grove Street Public Art project. I'm gonna kind of start with a zoomed out, big picture look on our public art program and why we do public art and what the idea is in context here. I know this is getting to be to the point where maybe all of you have heard this. So maybe next time I present the project, I won't have to go so far back, but I'm gonna do it once more. So what is public art? We really try to summarize it, simply put, as art in public space funded by public money with public process. And again, our goal is to emphasize the public part of public art, and centering the community in that process is how we go about that. So arts and history, our public art program provides the meaningful experiences and opportunities through accessible public art and programming that cultivates the evolving identity of Boise and fosters a sense of place. And our public art team primarily acts as project managers in that capacity, serving as the conduit between the community who the artwork is for and the artists, stakeholders, and contractors that are executing on any given project. And what public art does in our city is placemaking. So there's kind of a long definition there of placemaking. But essentially, public art emphasizes the whole process by creating a visual anchor or marker that reflects or embodies the identity and values of a community or place. So we've got some examples of public art here, our beloved pink tree right there. And then kind of to give you context on how each project builds on our current permanent collection. We're always kind of thinking about that in the back of our mind about when we select an artist and what kind of medium they work in, how is that going to build on our existing public art collection, which consists of site-based installations. We've got traffic boxes, Boise Visual Chronicle, portable works, as well as our temporary opportunities. So those portable works and Boise Visual Chronicle are kind of two-dimensional. They live indoors. They're not site-based works, which are installations of sculpture, murals, mosaics. So our collection is nearing about 1,000 artworks. And again, we're constantly thinking about what that collection looks like as a whole, trying to diversify that, different artists or different materials and subject matter that artwork interprets. So now the project that I'm presenting on, which is 521 West Grove Street. So this picture here shows the location of the ARC site, and it's currently a parking lot that's half accessible as a parking lot and has a construction trailer in it right now, but this is Grove Street and this is the Bass Block right here. So it's adjacent to the Bass Block. So the project is a partnership with Capital City Development Corporation with a Type 4 agreement, which means that they are reimbursing our project costs. And it's also a partnership with Parks and Recreation because once the project is complete, the whole space will be donated to the city and it will become park. So project background, the original, I guess, initiation of the project began in 2023, working with CCDC to initiate the T4, and then we released a request for qualifications in October of 2024. asking applicants, so these would be the artists applying for the project, to consider these 3 statements that they did short responses within the application. So we asked them to expand on public space intending to recognize and celebrate the history and contributions and cultures of diverse populations from Old Boise neighborhood. And there were many, we're trying to build essentially the context for what their art needs to represent and whether or not they would want to do this project, right? So immigrant people in this area whose stories are not currently visible because many of the buildings and historical elements that we're trying to show within the art, they're not there anymore. So this art is going to provide that visual anchor. And immigration becomes one of the biggest themes that we're asking these artists to show in their artwork. So the RF, the request for qualifications, resulted in a selection, and we do that by developing a selection panel that consists of a city council member, an arts and history commissioner, a representative from CCDC, a local artist, and a community member. And then that artist team was selected in December of 2024.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, this. So this is just a brief idea of selection panels and kind of how we set those up and what their roles and responsibilities are. And this is kind of formulaic for every selection panel. We show them this and we ask them to make sure that they are aware of what their role and responsibility is as sitting on the selection panel. So they represent the community, they are the public voice. And we ask them to also consider our public art collection and what their selection is actually, how that's going to affect the public art collection as a whole, asking them to act in as a manner. And then also at that point where we are in selection, we'll move to contract, then design, proposal, review, and approval. And we go back to the selection panel quite a few times as we go through the process, even after the artist is selected. So they still play an active role as a community member, as stakeholders in the project. This is just an example of how we do the selection scoring. So this is a rubric on the right. I mentioned before those 3 statements that we asked the artists to provide short responses on. And so every artist has a response that shares, how well they're going to interpret history, what their experience and desire to work with the community is, and then the panelists scored each application the same way, looking at artist fit and ability to follow through, artistic quality, ability to work collaboratively, and then ability to reference and reflect history. So we landed on Hua Design Studio. They are an artist team consisting of Wang Men Yu and Louis Chin. And they are multidisciplinary artists. I believe they're based in California primarily. And statement there in bold is kind of how they sum themselves up, that they really focus on collaboration and honor the complex processes of placemaking and placekeeping, weaving together stories of migration, belonging, and community resilience. Our selection panel interview with them was really impressive. Everybody was so impressed with their proposal for how they would do community engagement to really focus on what the community is saying and felt about what that space should convey. But the hard thing about this project is that there aren't a lot of community members that can speak to the history of this location. So they had to do a lot of research and also reach out to quite a few different organizations, which is our project stakeholders here. So we worked really closely with Parks and Recreation, again, Capital City Development Corporation, and our selection panel, which consisted of Council Member Jimmy Halliburton, Arts and History Commission member, Ms. Baum. And our CCDC representative, we had an artist, Caitlin Harris, and then community member Miren Ardiak, who she was the one that donated the property, sold the property to CCDC, which will then be donated to the city. So she was a very prominent member on this selection panel. And then our project design team, again, is CCDC. We have Jensen Belts, and then Guho Corp is our construction contractor. So the artists did quite a little bit more of outreach to a lot of community organizations, which I think really shows in their art proposal. They listened to people and wanted to learn more about Boise and kind of who makes up our community and what that should look like in their art. So the Idaho Black History Museum, the Idaho Chinese Organization, Idaho Museum of International Diaspora, the Basque Museum and Cultural Center, Global Lounge, and a professor, I can't remember what university she's associated with. Was in Boise State. And then of course our own history department worked closely with them as well. So without further ado, this is kind of the overall conceptual proposal that they have come up with. And I'm gonna read their statement on this because I think it's really good. So 521 West Grove Street represents a microcosm within Boise's larger history. Like the city itself, it defies any simplified or singular definition. Our proposed work will be a narrative map of migration, culture, and ecology that holds stories, memories, and dreams. The artwork will create an immersive environment where visitors are invited to journey along the migratory storylines, which weave through the space, honoring the immigrants who shaped this neighborhood and embedded their presence into the culture and land. These stories will meet and flow along the river, eventually converging into a welcoming future dreamscape of unity and. So in the original request for qualifications and how the design team kind of conceptualized the layout of the park space, we had 3 elements that we offered to the artists to consider for their design, and it was a shade structure, a seating element, and some kind of ground element that could be like ground level, whatever that may be. So these are the 3 elements that they have focused on. So we've got ancestral altars, a sky river, and then a dreamscape. We'll go into those in detail. So we'll start with the altars. So there's sandstone pieces, and those are actually going to be sourced from our local sandstone quarry that many locations throughout Boise have this local sandstone, which is really cool. But so they'll represent 9 primary cultural groups that shaped the pre-1970s history of the neighborhood. So they're going to use a combination of etched images and brass inlays to depict these storylines throughout this. We'll see this area a little more in detail in a minute, but it's going to kind of create a look and feel that might pull you into the space from the sidewalk of the park. And then we've got the Sky River, which is kind of the I would say the focal point of the park, which is going to be really cool, but it also serves as that shade element. And it's going to have some kinetic pieces to it. Sort of that they've been speaking about it kind of like fabric. They were really interested in movement and having something that felt kind of dynamic and a lot like a river, because river and Boise kind of really goes together. So the tapestry of moving aluminum pieces represents the movement of individual stories converging into a larger whole. And the Sky River is activated and powered by the wind, which is going to cast shadows. I believe it's also going to be lit with some kind of lighting element, so it'll illuminate at night. Yeah, we're really excited about this because they've had to go through a few different iterations about what kind of material they could use to get this effect. So we're excited to see what they land on about that. So then you've got the dreamscape element, which I'm gonna flip forward because element far in the back is what we're talking about, where it's like a mountain scape, grass.
Can you, sorry, Stephanie, can you
Yeah.
orient us, because the parking lot, that building right there on the left is gonna be new.
Yes, and it's actually not gonna be there for quite a long time,
Okay.
right? Yeah, so we're looking toward, is that Front Street?
So we're going down
First?
6.
Yeah, we're going down 6, we're looking toward Front Street, that's the Homes to Suites Hotel. That's like at the very end where that
Yeah.
brass mountain is.
Isn't there entrance to their parking garage right behind that brass mountain too?
There's like an alleyway right there.
Yeah.
But the parking garage entrance is actually on
The
the
official one.
left on the
Yeah.
other side. And it is supposed to be a one-way driveway that comes up this way, so nobody will be, you're not supposed to come off Sixth Street and drive to the left.
That's an easy way to get into that garage.
There's signage. but-
And then will that, is that a hotel or an office building that's gonna be in there on the left?
So that's not actually a real building.
Okay.
That is just there for visual of
Okay.
the project, but there is no current development planned on that site. It's an empty site. It's part of the urban district. There's no current.
Okay, so that just gives you a bird's eye view for the moment. So all of the art elements kind of leading you to the back of the park space. And they're gonna have more of these cultural patterns that are gonna be laser cut into the brass mountains, which is that element in the back. And they're gonna light the trees in kind of a cool way. All of this is supposed to have kind of like an ambient effect at night too. We're working with Parks and Rec to try to figure out how that lighting is gonna work. We don't like to do any ground lighting as the art team. And then also recognizing that lighting and electrical is not the specialty of Jamil Nalagio, so this is gonna be kind of fun challenge and learning experience for our whole team. And then I should point out too, so this mountain element has sort of a stage in front of it. That's kind of how the architects have designed this space so that this corner area kind of leads you in from Grove Street. And then you kind of weave your way back here and then toward the Sky River and then the dreamscape. So the materials as a whole they're looking at using local sandstone, etching in that sandstone and stamps in both the concrete and the sandstone. Got brass inlays, brass sheeting, rolled steel pipe, stainless steel wire grid, aluminum flappers, and LED lighting. So we're still not totally committed to any of these materials. We're working with consulting with Jamil Nalagio, and then we always consult with a professional conservator before we give the artist the go-ahead to move on to fabrication, just to make sure that we've thought of everything we can possibly think of. Sometimes all of us together can help the artist think about suggestions for just small tweaks in, perhaps a coating on that stainless steel wire. We're thinking about how those aluminum flappers are all going to go together, moving constantly. In the wind, that's going to be like, so that will be all thought of before we move forward on the application.
I have one question about the sandstone. How are similar? And I'm trying to think of what is out there and I don't know right now. But with graffiti and like trying to jump.
I thought about that. The tallest one is 6'8". So they can get, so it's intended for them to be able, for kids or whoever to climb on the little rocks. But they're too tall for really somebody to jump on top of the pillars, right?
Yeah, we're kind of constantly always thinking about that. The hard thing is that if somebody wants to do that, if somebody wants to climb something, they're gonna do it anyway.
Can people cut into sandstone? I guess I don't know how, like.
Yeah, I mean. Sandstone is. Well, it's all over the city and has lasted a long time. But I think that will be the challenge to see. As a public space, if there is any, people scratch into it, we can maybe sand it out. If it's sandstone, like, it's not gonna have any kind of a finish on it. That's a question for Jamil Nalagio about how they kind of plan to mitigate some of that, but they're thinking about it. Jamil Nalagio are our collections management team, so they manage any kind of vandalism, maintenance of the collection, conservation.
How long is this supposed to last?
None of our public art lasts forever, but we. I think Jamil and Elagio have a rule that any kind of vandalism or damage happens to something that's more than 50% of the original cost, we consider what that means for the artwork. And so that's where something called deaccessioning can come in, where it's just become too costly to take care of, and we can't justify spending so much public money on something that we already spent a lot of money on to maintain. So that becomes kind of where they weigh cost, whether or not we should repair it to maintain it for the future or do something new. But this, I'm not going to put a time on it because I don't think we know that quite yet. But we do ask artists to consider what they think the lifespan of an artwork is, and they'll consider things like what is the metal, how have they coated, some of these brass pieces, what does the etching look like? They'll consider all of that in their closeout documents so that we have an idea of what we're kind of shooting for, knowing that it's not going to last forever. So then next steps of this project, as the artists continue to kind of modify their design based on feedback, we'll give them the go-ahead to move forward with fabrication, and they're continuing to work with the site project design team, which has been kind of a fun back and forth, really integrating this artwork into the design elements that the team has already designed. So I'm thinking of like all the other structures that they're working on, the artists are now having to figure out how that shade structure element is going to be supported, footings, all that stuff. So that's the next part of the project. They'll consult with a professional art conservator, and then the next phase before fabrication is structural engineer. And then we'll get that stamp of approval, and then we'll move forward, expecting installation in spring of 2025, barring no more scheduling conflicts with the construction. So that's always kind of we're at their mercy for how they're moving. As fast as they're moving, that's our time.
Do the designers or the artists plan to fabricate from Boise?
This is an interesting one because there are quite a few materials that they're proposing to use that I'm not sure there are sources for in Boise, and that kind of is a common thing in a lot of our projects where it just depends where they can source their materials. I know that they are working with specific sources. I can't remember where they are. We are working with local construction company and local engineers, local lighting engineers, and sourcers. So
I think they were one of the only ones. Well, they just noted that they like to live in the place where they're working for a certain amount of time, and I couldn't remember if it was that installation or fabrication or whenever.
yeah, they're coming back for installation. I think they might be coming back a couple of times during installation because there's a few things that they kind of wanted to figure out and be here for. This will all be installed in phases too. It's not all going to happen at once. So
And I think too, just in terms of next steps, there will also be a request for city council to approve this via resolution. And I believe that's coming in a couple of weeks.
Who first settings?
That is in flux currently.
Join the
Sure.
Yeah. So the initial cost proposal and the agreement between the city and CCDC was a $300,000 budget. 400
total,
That's right, 400 total. Along the way, what's happened is that because it's sometimes hard to know where art ends and construction begins. And so, for instance, the shade structure, the footings and the support system for that was actually in a different budget that was not the city's budget. It was CCDC's budget, the construction managers. And so we are actually in the process right now of streamlining that so that those items, those line items get moved from those budgets from other places into the city's T4 agreement. So there'll be an amendment coming to city council for that amendment change. It is not going to cost the city any money because it's just money from CCDC's big project down in the district. It's just moving, it's kind of like moving things, but this project came in now that we've asked them to figure in all the costs for that. I think that the number was around 7,000.
I think so.
Which doesn't represent an increase in the cost of the whole thing. It's just that we're having to move some line items along. For CCDC, frankly, who's asked us to streamline things a little bit and wants to make the artists and ask our department to sort of run the whole thing that's going to be subsumed under these art pieces. Does that help?
Yeah, so CCDC is cutting the check, but there are some things in here that are part of the development that accentuate the art, but aren't part of the art.
Yeah, and then a little bit of the scope of work for the artist has been expanded, so instead of, like I was explaining, instead of just this top piece as the, you know, Sky River shade element, now they've been asked to consider the support system and the footings and how all that goes together as part of their work, which originally wasn't up to them. But it makes it easier because it allowed them, it didn't set a limit on what they could create. They kind of had the freedom to go, let's go big, and then how do we support it?
And is CCDC doing the extra benches that are under the Sky River?
I believe so.
Is that what they'll look like?
I'm not sure that this is kind of just still a rendering, like none of this is exactly what anything's going to look like, but I believe there are seating elements.
Are they consulting the artists on what those should look like, or are they just gonna put in whatever?
I think we're all kind of talking through aesthetics and how everything goes together for sure.
So I'll respond to that. CCDC held several listening sessions in the community, in the neighborhood, and allowed people to come and mark up different drawings and stuff. So I do think they're further along on the seating and that sort of thing than I think that would maybe indicate. I think that you can actually see that stuff on their website if you go into the project. I don't think these are accurate, but I could. So, well, why don't we follow up and let you know?
And then do you feel like there's enough sorry, I'm gonna get distracted by this big beautiful building that's not actually gonna be there now. Is there enough buffer between the park and whatever else is gonna go in there? Like I'm thinking of Sherry Buckner Web Park, right? And the difference between the building and where like broadcast starts, right? There's a park and then there's a decent amount of seating area and then the building. So they interact together nicely, but still kind of separately. And I'm feeling like, is there enough, like, is there a 6-foot table between the end of the park and whatever will be constructed? Because right now it's a really ugly parking lot that's gonna butt up against our beautiful park for who knows how long. So I'm hoping that people are being intentional about what that interface will look like and how things are not gonna get destroyed in the park as they're building the new building.
So if I could try to address that without having entire certainty, but because there's nothing actually designed and approved for the parcel that's to the east of the park, when that comes before the city government, whether it's design review or not parks, design review, planning and zoning, and then ultimately city council, they will have to answer those kinds of questions as they're designing that building. So I think that's where that discussion will happen. And I don't know that we can answer it right now. I think that because it's such a small parcel for the park, we'll probably, the park people and CCDC are maximizing the space for a park. And so it's gonna be up to whoever develops that parcel to the east to deal with setbacks and deal with, making sure that it's not encroaching on the park too much. So that's gonna be out of our hands.
And sorry, one more, I was on the panel, I should have. Is there parking right there or no?
Right where,
Right at the edge of the park where the state building is there going to be new parking spots for people who go just to the park?
Hmm.
Okay,
I think so. I think
I didn't
there's
think so.
some street parking, but I think it's been modified significantly, so it doesn't look like how it did.
the idea is definitely for more pedestrian friendly as opposed to complexes.
I was just thinking about, again, Sherry-Buckerbuck Park that added some parking. Interesting.
But this is a public parking garage that you can. It's right there.
I think it looks great, and I really appreciated the information you gave us, the proposal. The video that they did, like testing the shade material and how it looked on the ground was.
They've done an immense amount of work on this, they've done a great job.
They are so thoughtful and communicative.
You could tell.
They've been really fun to work with.
Good.
Okay, we'll move on to Emily. But the catalyst plan. Second.
Awesome. I'm also gonna go through some information that some of you might remember from last time, but for those of you that weren't here, I'll give a little context. So I'm gonna talk about, I'm Emily Shivers, Grants and Public Programs Manager for the City Arts District. So we'll talk about Catalyst Grant as a whole first. Just do a quick overview. So it is a pilot program this year, and it's meant to support small and mid-sized arts history and cultural activities such as public programs, events, projects, exhibitions, tours, just to name a few options. But it's a projects and programs-based grant. We chose the name Catalyst because we really wanted to spark quick change, quick action versus our annual program that kind of happens once a year. And so there's one opportunity to apply, you miss it, to wait till the next year. That saves more opportunities to apply. So we had some unexpended funds from COVID, lots of obvious cancellations during that time period. And so that funding was carried over and rebudgeted to support this grant program. And it was really great to be able to apply it back to the community, give it back to the community where it was intended to go in the first place. So for this program, it's a $2,000 standard award size. We accept applications in 4 rounds. I'll be talking specifically about round 2 today, but you'll see a little bit of kind of that timeline in a moment. And each round we fund 5 projects. And for some reason, there are funds that don't get spent, whether it's not enough applicants, which hasn't been a problem yet, or that maybe they're not eligible for some reason, then we roll that funding over to the next round. And then the activities just need to be completed by the end of this fiscal year, so September 30th, 2024. So here's just a quick overview. We're going to talk about round 2. Round 3 is happening as we speak. Applications are rolling in. I'm hearing from potential applicants asking questions or reviewing applications right now. And that actually closes on Friday. But as you can see for round 2, we had opened applications March 4th. Closed on April 5th, and then they were notified by April 26th. And I'll talk about some of the programs because some of them have actually already happened, which is really cool. That was the intent that they quickly. So our review team for this grant, the panelists are made up of 4 community members. There was an application that we opened up for panelists, and we received, I'm going to say it's like 56 applicants for 9 positions for not only the Catalyst, but also our annual grants. So there was just overwhelming support from the community and people wanting to get involved. And we're continually looking for ways to involve those people. even if they weren't selected for a panel this time. So it was really, really exciting to see. We also have one member from the Arts and History Commission. It's Catherine, who's unfortunately not here today, but she has a baby. So just to briefly go through eligibility for this program, it has to be completed by a individual, or it could be a representative of an organization. It could be a nonprofit friends group that's associated with a government agency. So there's no requirement for it to be a registered 501c3. It can be individual, group, organization. It has to, though, directly benefit Boise City residents. That's really, so even if it's from someone who's maybe not a 501c3, it has to have that public benefit and community benefit component. We do ask that they meet Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA requirements. We ask that they meet our equal opportunity statement. And then also this kind of a new piece is we require that they use the template provided for the budget to make it easier for panelists to review, because sometimes the budgets that were submitted could be very, very different and sometimes hard to understand. So feedback I've already received is having that template has been really good, helpful, not only for our panelists, but also for applicants. The criteria that we're looking at, quality, also community benefit is a huge piece, alignment with the City of Boise and Arts and History Department mission. So that city for everyone, as well as really that placemaking element and telling history of the city. Accessibility, and we define accessibility not only with affordability, but also how are they making it accessible to lots of diverse communities. And then management, so project management, logistics, those things. All right, now we're going to dive into the fun part. So our round 2 results, we had 10 applicants for round 2. Our first time applicants, we had 5, so 50% was they had never applied for an arts and history grant before. And that was really the goal, was to reach that audience that maybe hasn't had the opportunity to apply for this before. And 2 of those were recommended for funding. So I'll talk about those in a minute. So amount requested was $20,000, and the amount that we were able to grant in each round is 10. So just to show you quickly some of the applicants that were declined in this round, and there were various reasons, some of which were very logistical, and some of which just they all received feedback from the panel to hopefully encourage them to apply again, if that made sense for the time of their grant or project. So we're hoping that some of these come back again and utilize that feedback given by the panelists. And then awarded, this is a quick list, and I'm going to dive into a little bit more detail for each of what these are. So it's a quick list. Start with the first one. So the Idaho Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, it served as a fiscal sponsor for a number of groups. There's like a large number of people involved. Latinas, let me make sure I get the name. Latinas Mercadito is also listed under that. And so they'll be hosting a Cumbia festival. And there's kind of 2 parts to the festival. And the funding from this grant supported a free community cultural event that will be open to all ages from 12 to 7. It's actually this Saturday. It was on the list of things to do, so check it out and make sure to go see it. And then in the evening, there's a ticketed concert that will feature a number of acts, local Laura and local Cumbia legend will be performing, as well as some people from out of town as well. And it'll be at Shriners Social. And then we had artist Stephen Ifiga, who was funded to support his exhibition Third World Africa 3. It's a solo painting exhibition of works that really talk about being a part of the African diaspora here in the United States, as well as here in Idaho University. And the exhibition will actually be hosted at World Village Festival in partnership. This is one that's already happened. So TRICA hosted the inaugural Maple Market Block Party, and this happened on May 11th. It's from 10 to 1. And they had activities, crafts, food trucks, and dancing around the maple, which you can see as this is pulled directly from their final report. And it was a very well attended event. I've already heard feedback from them that they said it was amazing and they're excited to make this an annual event based on the success. So what was this? What was that?
Where was this located?
It was right outside of Trica, so that building in the back is the church that they turned into their building, so it's in the north end, I don't know exact street.
It's 14th and some.
Yeah, and it was a huge block party, so they shut down that whole area. And then Friends of the Bishop's House will commission a mural on canvas that's going to be mounted in the house in the stairwell. She mentioned that they had a piece there that was there for many, many years. They didn't realize it was a loaned piece and the artist actually took it back. And so they were panicking a little bit for this kind of empty space that had this beautiful art for so long. And so we will be funding the commissioning of an artist to do a piece in that building. There'll be some events related to their 135th birthday, which is in 2024, as well as the 50th anniversary of their addition to the Old Penn District. So they physically moved the building to that location where they are now. So that'll be exciting.
Is the department involved at all in the selection of the mural?
I think they already have the artist selected to be a part of their application. And then last but not least, Isla Thomas, who is an individual artist that applied for a project called Catalyst for Kindness. And they want to make 100 Catalyst for Kindness crochet animals and distribute them throughout the community via the free little libraries. So it's kind of a make art, inspire, or take art and then make art. So to inspire others to pass it on, that idea of kindness. And then also a chance for her to create these little animals that are all Idaho and Boise native animals.
Cute. Is Isla a teenager?
I think she is 18.
Did you ask if she's a teenager?
Yeah, I think I know it.
Oh, you do? Okay. I was like, I'm not sure exactly her age, so don't quote me on that, but yeah. All right, so that's just a quick recap of the 5 that were funded in round 2. Excited to see what's going to come in round 3 and 4 coming up in the next few months. I did want to just do a quick plug for the annual grant program because there are a few things that you will all see coming up, and thank you to those commissioners who will be serving on the panel for the annual grant program. Our applications close next Friday. I can't believe it's already here. And then we'll have the panel review meeting in July, so lots of time to review all the applications. And then it will come to the commission, as it always does, hopefully on August 7th for that commission meeting. Wednesday of that month. It will then go through city council and reviewed by the mayor, and there's sort of a 2-week period that chance to review all that were recommended. And then they'll be solidified and then notified by September 1st at the latest. So be on the lookout for upcoming annual grant recommendations or applications, and excited for what's to come.
How has the response been on it? So
For annual,
just so I.
for annual, so last time I looked, and that was last Friday, so this is probably an outdated number. We had 30 draft applications and 5 submitted. There were some people who I know are planning to apply that were missing. So I'm sure that number will grow. Any other questions for me?
And I would just comment too that Emily's been doing office hours and
Oh.
speaking with a lot of, maybe you want to talk about that because that's been terrific.
Yeah, so I implemented office hours, so weekly I have two days in the mornings where people can sign up for times with me. I'll talk with them about their proposals, answer any questions that they have. And I want to say for the past at least 3 weeks, they've been fully booked. And I have about 3-hour blocks each those 2 days. So people are utilizing them. Hopefully they're helpful. That's the goal. And so, as I mentioned, when I say I know there's people planning to apply, a lot of people I've met with looking for their names in that.
It'll be like at 11:59.
I know.
Is it?
Yeah. Thanks to.
Thank you. All right. That's sure. One thing, and I don't know if we talk about it. For our next commission meeting, I am out of town on the 3rd, but it is the 4th of July.
It's often canceled because a lot of people leave.
We do typically do.
So I don't know if we just want to do it now.
Yeah.
like Council, or you can.
I'm really invested in July 3rd.
I know the
Well,
council
let's
has
talk
bullets
about
to be in
money.
town, it has the live,
Got a
but.
lot going. God bless America, let's cancel it.
Okay, if there are no other questions and no further business before the commission, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I'm like entertaining a motion.
So moved.
I think so moved. I am so moved.
Second.
And second,
A second? All those in favor?
all right.
Hearing. We are adjourned.